Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today, for the first video of 2023, I'm going to talk about the books that I read in December. Now, this is my second time filming this video because the first time I did it, it was really long, really long. And I mean, yes, I have a few books to talk about, but wow, I'm long-winded. So anyways, I had filmed little clips when I finished each of the books in December and inserted it into that video, and that's why. I think that's why it got so long. So now we're just gonna try to talk about them all in one sitting. So hopefully we can do this. So before we get started on December, I just want to show you my shirt that I got. It's a good day to read a book. So this was kind of a birthday Christmas gift from my husband. He doesn't really order things online, so I showed him this, and then he gave me a gift card so that I could order it. So yeah, that was really sweet of him. That was really cool. Okay, so in December, I read 16 books, which is the most books I have read any month in 2022, but I think it's kind of probably the most books I've read in any month that I can remember reading anyways. So let's just get into it. I have to find my sheet. I'm going to go through the wheel spins that I did when I did my December TBR, and then what book I chose to go with those wheel spins. I'll talk about that book, and then I will talk about all the other books that I chose to read. But before we get to the wheel spins, so I say that and now I totally changed up my mind. Before we get to the wheel spins, I'm going to talk about the first book that I read, that I started the month with, and that was To the Farthest Shores by Elizabeth Camden. I started this one in November, so then I finished it at the very beginning of December. And it is a historical fiction. It is a second chance romance between Ryan and Jenny. Jenny is a nurse, and Ryan had left to go off for the war, and he had planned on coming back and they would get married. But a year after he left, he wrote her and said, "I'm sorry, but I will not be coming back. Please move on, and I'm sorry for leading you on." Well, now, 5 years later, he is back, and he has a daughter with him, 4 years old. And Jenny's like, "Okay, what happened while you were gone? Like, why?" And Ryan can't really tell her anything. And Ryan is in a really difficult spot because he is trying to train somebody to take his place in what he was working with the government for. But if he can't get this guy trained to do it, he can stay in California and he'll have to go back. So he really wants to reconnect with Jenny and really kind of see if they can rebuild their relationship. But then he's also scared because if this guy can't be trained to do it, then he's going to have to go back and there will be no relationship. And this guy, Finn, has some challenges of his own that he really needs to work through. And so Jenny, because of her position, she gets assigned to assist Ryan working with Finn. So the three of them are working very closely together. They end up going down to Ryan's summer house in Southern California with his daughter, and then she brings along Simon, who is like a father figure to her. And so they're working together to try to get Finn ready, but Jenny still doesn't know all the secrets. And Ryan is keeping secrets from her because he thinks he's trying to protect her. But then when Jenny discovers that he's not telling her the whole truth, that he is keeping secrets, he's just hurting her. She just gets more and more hurt. So it's definitely a very relationship-based story, and I really, really enjoyed that. And this was my first Elizabeth Camden book I'd ever read, and I really want to read more by her. I've actually, since when I was reading this, I actually picked up another book by her. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The quote that I took from this book was, "I know you're afraid, but there are going to be times in life when you have to stand up to fear, because fear kills more dreams than anything else in the world. Fear kills hope. Fear can paralyze people. Don't let fear make you blind." So then my first wheel spin was a book that was released at least 10 years ago. And for that book, I chose to read Legacy of Lies by Jill Elizabeth Nelson. This one came out in September 2010, and I had read the first chapter of this in my Try a Chapter Lowest Rated video. And after reading that first chapter, I was hooked and really wanted to continue, so that is why I picked this one up. It is a suspense story, so Nicole finds some baby bones in her grandmother's backyard. And as kind of where did these bones come from? So as a search, it links to a case of a missing baby from 50 years ago. And so she starts working with the police chief to try to figure out what happened. And Nicole is very independent and determined to find out the answers of what happened, even if it means that her grandparents are involved, and she it might change kind of the way she sees them, because it was in her grandparents' backyard, but her grandfather has passed away, so she can't ask him about it. And then her and her grandmother get attacked, which leaves her grandmother in a coma, so she can't ask her grandmother about it either. So she needs to work with the police to try to figure this out, but she's kind of scared to find what she might discover, but she's also wants to know the truth. I was very invested in trying to figure this out. I really liked the characters of the police chief, Rich, and Nicole, and trying to work together to figure out what's going on. I was really surprised at who was assisting the mastermind behind this, and how what was happening today connected to the missing baby from 50 years ago. So I really enjoyed this story, and I'm glad I read it. Again, I gave it 4 out of 5. So then my wheel spin number 2 was a mystery or suspense. So I decided to pick up Where There's Smoke by Susan May Warren. This is book 1 of the Montana Fire series, and I'd kind of been hesitant about reading it for a while because I really like Susan May Warren's books. But I had put off reading it because I don't know. There was something about the title names of this series that just kind of, I don't know. And not so much the Where's There Smoke one, but a couple of the other ones later on, they just rubbed me the wrong way. And so I went into this not really sure what to expect. It features smoke jumpers and kind of their work. I did not enjoy this book at all. I could not connect with the characters, and the relationship between the characters I just didn't feel it. And neither one is really a Christian, so kind of some of their actions are very prevalent at the beginning, like Jed and Kate is her name. So Kate they're in the middle, the forest, working on fighting this fire, and Kate is taking a break and sleeping and having a nightmare, and Jed goes in to wake her up, but instead of just kind of waking her up, he kisses her to wake her up. They don't have a relationship. Yes, they did at one point, but not now, and I don't know, it just felt off, and I did not like it. And then there was another scene where Jed and his roommate Reuben just start wrestling in the middle of the living room because Reuben has moved all Jed's furniture out of the room, and they start wrestling, and then all of a sudden it ends and they're fine with each other. And it was okay, that was weird. I could not get into this. I just couldn't get into these stories. And I just kept thinking about other smoke jumper based stories I had read, and I just enjoyed that much better. So yeah, I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars because it just wasn't for me, and I'm not going to continue with the series. The one quote I did take from it, though, is, "We're always going to be overwhelmed, disheartened by our own stupidity, even afraid. Faith, however, says, don't panic. God, the one who loves you, has your back. He already knows what you need and wants to provide it." So yes, there was definitely faith in this story because the two end up becoming Christians and learning to trust God. So then prompt number 3 spin number 3 came up with the monthly prompt of mostly white cover. So that is from Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, so her prompt for December. And I chose to go with Love Finds You in Frost, Minnesota. So this is a very white cover with snow. And this is a contemporary romance. I mean, it's a Love Finds You. I did not go into this with very high expectations. And as I got reading it a little bit more, it was like, it really, to me, it came off as really cheesy. And I think that's because really the character names. So there is Mary, but Mary is spelled Merry. Her middle name is Noelle. And she runs a Christmas store, a B&B, and is a kindergarten teacher. She's a little bit busy. Then the guy is Jack Frost. So like Mary and Jack Frost, like the names just, and I think that just made it cheesy for me. Jack has come from California to Frost, Minnesota. He's inherited some properties there, and he's trying to find out the title deeds and kind of research into it. And he is not a fan of Christmas, and not that he has a problem. Like he is a believer, believes in the nativity and the birth of Jesus and all that, but he doesn't like the big Christmas celebrations. But he had an event that happened to him when he was much younger that really kind of scarred Christmas for him. And when I found out about what happened, that really broke my heart. Like, that was difficult to have that happen as a kid, right? So Mary was very determined to find a man of faith, and all the guys are kind of like in the community keep coming on to her, but she keeps turning them down because they're not a man of faith. And then as she gets to know Jack more, it's like, oh, maybe, but Jack doesn't like Christmas, and she wants somebody that likes Christmas. And so there's things that stand in the way between them. And you can tell that Jack has a really caring heart and wants to do what is right, but he's also trying to protect himself. The one thing I did not like about Jack was he's working on trying to find these titles and how it all works. And he because he gets sick, his lawyer friend comes in to do the work for him, and he tells Vince, just do it, I don't want to know, just, go ahead, do everything. But yet he wants to make sure things are handled correctly, but then doesn't check in with Vince. Like, that was just, I don't know, that just felt odd to me. But the community members kind of rally around Mary and try to help with everything. Mary is just trying to help everybody around her, and Mary was like, I don't know how she kept up. I don't know, like, when did she sleep? Like, I have no idea. She did so much, and all the Christmas events in town wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Mary, is what it felt like. So, yeah. I don't know. It was an okay read. It probably would be a Hallmark movie for me, I would think. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And the one thing that I did like a quote that I took from it, and I am not a fan of snow whatsoever. And the one thing I took from it was, snow hid the defects and washed the world clean, even if only for a little while. And I mean, that's so true. Snow is really pretty when it first comes down and you look out and there's like nothing. It's just a clean white surface. It's really, really pretty. But then you go out and there's footprints and tire marks and all that kind of stuff, and it becomes muddy and slushy, and it ain't so pretty anymore, But yeah. Okay, so then the fourth spin gave me a 1-word title. So for that, I decided to reread Nichols by Karen Baney. This was a contemporary romance. This was my second time reading it. When I first read it in 2015, I gave it 5 stars. So I wanted to reread it and see would I still give it 5 stars. My original review said I immediately connected with these characters and did not want to put it down because I needed to know what was going to happen. Well, my second time through, I really liked the characters, but I had no problems putting it down. But that's also because, I knew what was going to happen, right? I didn't remember it, exactly. But I had a good sense of where it was going to go. So it didn't have the same gripping. But I mean, that makes sense because when you read it your first time, you're right, and the second time. So that totally makes sense. So Nikki is a software engineer who gets hired on at this company to do some coding for them. At this company, she runs into Kyle, who is her best friend's older brother. And they haven't seen each other since high school days. And Nikki doesn't really have fond memories of him. And a lot of things have happened to Kyle between high school, college, and now that he is a different person and trying to improve. But Nikki has lost her parents and her older brother, so she is all alone. And because of all the hurt, she doesn't trust God. She is trying to, other than her best friend, she's not close to anybody. And work is her focus and her only focus. But Kyle tries to get her to open up and tries to show her that he is a different person. And yeah, I really enjoyed following these two. Now, the one thing I did not like is that once Kyle and Nikki kind of form a little bit of a relationship, and Kyle has a secret that he really needs to share with Nikki, and he knows he really needs to share it. However, he puts off sharing it. There were multiple opportunities for him to share it, but he never shares it. And if he had just shared it, so much could have been resolved. And so much hurt wouldn't have happened. Like, it was just like, I do not like lack of communication. Like, please communicate, especially when you're in a relationship. Don't keep secrets from each other. Like, all it does is end in heartbreak and hurt feelings, and yeah. The other thing that I really liked about this book is we see Nikki learn about faith, learn about God, and learn to trust God. And not only through Kyle, but through her best friend. And her best friend attends a Bible study and invites Nikki, and they start learning, and they really kind of support her and surround her and show her God's love. And so it is totally a coming to Christ story, and I love that aspect of it. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because I still enjoyed it just as much, but I think I'm a little bit more discerning about what I give 5 stars to now than maybe what I was in 2015. So yes, I would totally reread this again because I really enjoyed it. And even the coding aspect of it was not over my head. It was presented in a way that was easy to understand and follow through what was going on. So yes. Okay, so then spin number 5 was a BFF pick. So when I did my spin, I didn't know what Christine was going to pick for me. So she gave me Savoring Christmas by Shanna Hatfield to read. I was really excited when I saw this because this was a new release that I was really looking forward to reading. So this one came out in the beginning of November. It is book number 10 of the Rodeo Romance series. And it features 2 new characters that we haven't met in previous books of this series. But it does have reoccurring characters from previous books that take very prominent roles in this one. One, for example, is Cooper James, who is the rodeo clown, and he was featured in Barreling Through Christmas, which I think is book 2 or 3, one of the very early books. But he takes a very prominent role in this one. And so Troy is a team roper. Yes, a team roper with his cousin, who basically him and his cousin have been raised by their grandparents. So they basically grew up almost like brothers. And he was on the whole rodeo circuit at one point, but because his grandfather passed away, he came home to help work the ranch, and now they only compete in the local rodeos. Then there is Lark, who runs a food truck, And so they meet at one of the rodeos, and Lark is only running the food truck temporarily. She wants to raise enough money so that she can open her own restaurant in Portland. She doesn't want to live on a farm where she kind of grew up and stuff. She's aiming for the big city. Whereas Troy realized how much he missed the ranch when he was on the road and can't imagine leaving the ranch ever again. Like, he wants to stay at home. So the two have very different dreams for life, but they get thrown together and get to know one another, and a connection forms, and it's like, how can this happen? Can we do this with and still our dreams? So how is that going to work? I really, really enjoyed this story, and there was so much humor in it, and so many times that I just laughed out loud because the sarcasm and humor, and I really enjoyed this story. The one thing I did not like about this is it's called Savoring Christmas, but I feel like it really skips over Christmas because Lark and Troy meet in the summer and kind of their relationship develops over the fall. Then they go to the Las Vegas Rodeo Convention in December, and kind of it builds a little bit there. And then all of a sudden, an event happens, and they don't spend Christmas together. There's very little Christmas talked about other than what happens, like kind of the Christmas market at the Las Vegas convention. And then all of a sudden it's January. And it was like, what happened to Christmas? So that's the one thing I did not like, but I really enjoyed like seeing like previous characters that I've come to know and kind of catching up on their lives now, like see kind of where they are now, right? Because some of their families have blossomed a little bit more and things like that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it and getting to know these characters. There is a character in this book that I really hope the next book features because I want to know more about him and kind of let him have his own story. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars because I just wanted to keep reading and I really enjoyed it. So then spin number 6 was a 1-word title. So for that one, I picked up Handcrafted by Clint Harp. This is a biography of Clint Harp. He is a carpenter that kind of got his start on the show Fixer Upper with Chip and Joanna Gaines. I struggled with this one because it's hard to rate biographies because I mean it's about a person's life. I can't judge how they live their life and how they decide to do. So basically my rating is how it read. Like, was it an easy read? Did it flow nicely? That kind of thing. I gave it 3 stars. Only because like I felt like the story itself flowed nicely and followed along. But at the beginning of each chapter, there are these kind of really detailed sections and then the story comes in. But here is all about woodworking and kind of how to build something or how like each chapter has that, right? And I found those ones a little bit difficult to read and I didn't really understand why they were included, I think. And I don't know, like maybe I shouldn't read biographies because my opinion of people have changed a little bit and not always for the positive because I felt him very irresponsible in the choices he made and I couldn't imagine how his wife was feeling because like he quits a really good paying job to become a cabinet maker, like a carpenter, but he hasn't built anything ever, like never completed a table at this point in time, and they have 2 kids at home, and he also didn't really seem like they had a ton of savings when he decided to do this, and I'm kind of like, wouldn't the responsible thing be to like at least build a piece of furniture and see if this is something you really want to do full time before you quit, or build up your savings and know how you're going to, like, until you sell that first piece of furniture. Like, but I mean, that's personal. I'm also, I want to be comfortable, and I don't want to have to be worrying about money and being in debt and right away, like, yeah. But as I said, like, I don't want to judge. And yeah. So I gave it 3 out of 5. I just, yeah. But the one thing that I took from this is the quote that I took is actually not a quote that was written by him. It was something that a friend said to him. And the friend said, "You're the main character in your own story. Everybody else is your supporting cast, just as you play a supporting role in others' stories. As the lead, you've got to decide how you want your narrative to unfold." And that's true. You take control of your life and how you want it. So, yes. Okay, so those were the 6 books on my TBR. Then on day 7 of Bookmas, Christine added a book to my TBR. Now, I did have an option of choosing which book out of 4 book options that she gave me of what book I wanted to add. And I don't know, not thinking clearly, not knowing myself, like, I don't know what I was doing or why I chose this one. But I decided to choose Have Yourself a Christiansen Christmas by Susan May Warren. So this is book number 7 of the Christiansen family series. And when I say not knowing myself, I love series books and I love reading series in order. And how could I read book number 7 when I read book 6 years ago? So I read this Christiansen family series, books 1 to 6, in 2016. So yeah, 6 years ago. Was I really going to just jump into book 7 in December? So I really debated, but I promised her that that was the book I would read because that was the one that I chose on day 7. And it was like, okay, do I read them all or do I just read 7? Well, I decided to read them all. So I did read book 1 to 7 of the Christiansen family series. Now, because I read the whole series, I'm going to put together a series review video, and I will have that come out either kind of tomorrow or within the next couple days of you seeing this video. So I'm not going to talk about them right here. But yes, those were the next 7 books I read. So then I still had a few days left in December. So I thought, okay, what do I want to read next? So I decided to read, I had a few advanced reader copies from NetGalley, so I decided, okay, I'll read one of those. So I read Guiding the Grouch by Shanna Hatfield. This is book number 5 of the Summer Creek series. Now, it is book number 5. I did not read book 1 to 4 before I read this one. However, I had read books 1 to 4 of Summer Creek in 2021. So it was still pretty fresh in my mind. I knew the characters, so it quickly came back to me. So which is why I felt okay picking up this one. So this one features Gabe, who is a billionaire, and he lives in Oklahoma City, and he owns a realty firm. And then his father and sister own another portion of the business. So he sort of works with them, but then he has his own department that he's overhead, I think is kind of how it worked. And his sister has kind of dictated his life and taken over his schedule for basically the months of like kind of and middle of November, so like from Thanksgiving to December, like Christmas. And has scheduled him for something like every single day and really like kind of, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. And he's like, he's tired of it, doesn't want to do that. So he discovers that the family or the business has been maintaining this house in Summer Creek, Oregon. But nobody knows any history of the house, and nobody's living in this house, and why are we maintaining it? So he decides, okay, I'm going to go there and stay there and kind of hide from the family and research about this house and what our connection is and why we're paying for the maintenance on this. And so he, at 42 years old, he runs away from home and goes there. And he doesn't tell anybody other than his assistant where he is and what he's doing. In Summer Creek, he ends up meeting Danny, who is a waitress and a single mother, and she has a 15-year-old son. She works at the local restaurant, and she overhears Gabe talking on the phone and kind of grouching about Christmas and everything that his sisters assigned him to. So jokingly, she comes up to him and calls him Mr. Grouch. And so a banter relationship kind of starts to build between the two of them, and he starts calling her Miss Christmas because he starts teaching her about Christmas. No. She starts teaching him about Christmas and celebrating Christmas and decorating the house and decorating tree and putting lights up and watching Christmas movies, baking cookies, like making memories. He's never experienced any of this stuff before. It's always been about the outside presentation and the parties. So, and he's getting to know kind of a family Christmas and what that really feels like. I really, really enjoyed that. And it was just it was a great Christmas story, and I highly recommend reading this one at Christmas and to really get you in the Christmas spirit. It was really fun, and the relationship that developed between Danny and Gabe and the son Seth was just, I really enjoyed it. So I gave this book 5 stars because I did really enjoy it. And the quote that I took from this one is, "Give people a chance and reserve judgment." So, okay, then the book that I ended the year with was Critical Threat by Lynette Eason. This was an advanced reader copy that I received through NetGalley. It is book number 3 of the Extreme Measures series, and it releases, or is out by now, January 3rd. So by the time you see this book is out. This one is set in Virginia and features Grace, who is an FBI behavioral analyst, and Sam, who is a prison psychiatrist. And Sam is also the son of a serial killer who is currently in prison. And Grace gets called to a murder scene where it is suspected to be part of a serial killer killings. So she gets working on this case, and Sam gets called in because of the similarities to his father's killings, and so he is working as a consultant. The two had previously met, sort of had an acquaintance knowledge of each other. And so they start working together to try to figure out what was going on. And then all of a sudden, it appears that the serial killer starts coming after Grace. And Sam is trying to protect her and work with her. And Grace is like, I just want to solve this. Now, in addition to the whole serial killer case and trying to figure all that out, Sam and Grace both have personal lives happening and events happening in their lives. So Grace's brother is a drug addict and is in the hospital because he has OD'd. And so she is trying to help him and kind of be there for the family. And then Sam has 2 teenage kids that he's working with and trying to help. And so they have kind of, other than the case and work life, they have personal kind of taking their attention as well. That is what I really enjoy about Lynette Eason's books, because she creates characters that feel very real to life, because work isn't their only life, right? They have personal stuff going on as well, and trying to find the balance and kind of do both and handle both and just live, because that's the way life is, right? You have to focus on everything that's going on, and you have multiple balls going in your court at once. So that's what I really enjoyed about it, and I really enjoyed watching these two work together kind of figure out how things were happening, what was happening, but also kind of balance their personal issues at the same time. I was really intrigued, and I was positive I knew who was behind things, and I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler. No, I don't think so. So basically, I had suspicions of two characters, of who they were. One was kind of like, well, maybe they're involved. The other one's like, no, I'm positive they're involved. I'm positive they're involved. And when that name got put up as being the person, I was like, yes, I knew it. I knew it. And I love that. I love when I can figure it out, but I also love it when I'm shocked. So I'm kind of, give me either and I'm happy. But it's always such a fun feeling when it's like, oh, I knew it. But yeah. So yes, I highly recommend this book. The only thing is it is following a serial killer. So if you're not for that, if you struggle with that type of storyline, and it does kind of, I don't think it's really, really gruesome, but it does detail how the killings happen a little bit. So that could be a little triggering for some people. I don't know. I love suspense, mystery, things like that, so it doesn't bother me at all. But the quote that I took from this is, "We all have our past, our mistakes, our shame. I am no one to judge." And that's so true. We can't. We are not to judge others. Okay, so that is what I read in December. So I read a total of 16 books. As I mentioned, I will be talking about seven of them, the Christiansen family series, in a video to come in the next couple days. So look out for that. But my favorite book of the month, I don't think I can choose one book. So I'm going to choose 3 books. So I really enjoyed the Guiding the Grouch, which was a total Christmas fun read. And then my next new to me read was Critical Threat. I really enjoyed that one as well. And then I really enjoyed It Had to Be You by Susan May Warren, which is book number 2 of the Christiansen family. But that's a reread for me, so I'm not going to count it as one of my... I'm not going to say it's my favorite book of the month because it was a reread. So that is what I read in December. I had some really good reads. Majority were 4 or 5 stars. I had a couple duds, but that's okay because not every book can be a great book. There are gonna be some that don't stand out as much as others. But overall, it was a pretty good reading month. I mean, it was my best reading month of the year. So I'm happy with the way the year ended. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this today, and I hope you'll come back for another video in the future. Have a good day. Bye.